What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today, the move is official. The New England Patriots have fired head coach Jerod Mayo. And in this video, I kind of wanted to break down Mayo's tenure, as well as offer a couple of coaching replacements that I think would be perfect candidates for the Patriots head coaching job. So let's get right into it. So the move is official. Jerod Mayo has officially been fired by the New England Patriots, finishing his sole season here in New England with a 4-13 record. And frankly, that's just not going to get the job done. And Jerod Mayo inherited a roster that had a ton of flaws, as well as kind of an inexperienced coaching staff. And it's no surprise that he struggled here in New England with all of those factors combined, especially given the fact that he really had to seek out his own coaching staff. And with him being in New England for basically his entire career, he also kind of had to rely on guys like Elliott Wolf and more people in the front office who aren't our particular experienced coaching staffs to really go out and kind of find other coaches that were out of the New England system. So he did have to rely on a ton of others to kind of help him with this coaching staff due to the inexperience and really him being here in New England his entire career. So it's no surprise that they really weren't able to find some of the high-end, sought-after coaching in this league that, frankly, the Patriots really needed this past season. And the inexperience really showed on this coaching staff. Of course, you had Alex Van Pelt being a first-time play caller, who I thought actually got a lot of momentum as the season went ahead. And I do think that he actually slid it into that role pretty well and finished the season on a strong sense, other than the fact that he really didn't have a ton of design runs for Drake May. But that also could have been the plan. You know, you're not in particularly looking to win games here if you are in New England, and you really don't want to risk your franchise quarterback. So putting him in harm's way with some design runs might not have been at the top of the list for Alex Van Pelt. But then also you switch over to the defensive side, and DeMarcus Covington also being a first-time play caller here in the NFL at least. So it really did show the inexperience, and there was a lot of questionable coaching decisions throughout the season. Really, in particular, where Jerod Mayo lost the job for me was after the bye week, and even the week leading up to the bye week, going into that Colts game. I think they had like a 10-point lead with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were unable to really hold that off. And during the game, they had a couple of costly turnovers, but in particular, they let Anthony Richardson, I believe it was, go on like a 90-yard drive for the game-winning touchdown, as well as converting a 2-point conversion at the end there. And that was really a winnable game for the Patriots. The Colts were by no means a juggernaut, and when you're at home in front of your own fans, that's a game you frankly just have to win, especially given the fact that you led up to that point for the majority of the game. And really, Drake May in that game was playing extremely efficient offense, and it was just that a costly turnover in the red zone that I wouldn't even pin on Drake May really gave the Colts extra life. But coming out of the bye week, the Patriots still had fight, but it really was just not the results that you were looking for. There was not a lot of adjustments made on either side of the ball, and it really kind of cultivated in that 40-7 loss with the Chargers, where, you know, you heard Gillette Stadium saying fire Mayo. And then, of course, in the last game, you know, Jerod Mayo does end up getting the W, but in particular, you do end up losing the first overall pick. So the fan base certainly could have been playing a role into this firing. They were, of course, upset with Jerod Mayo. And I think that Robert Kraft is starting to feel this pressure of this fan base. You know, it's been a couple years since the Patriots have made the playoffs. And, of course, you expect a lot as the New England Patriots being that brand, especially given the fact that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady made you into a dynasty. This is like year 6 of our rebuild now. And, frankly, just the results have been getting worse and worse. And they really haven't found that stable force over these past couple seasons. So it's going to be on this ownership group to bring in someone who is perfectly qualified and certainly more qualified than Jerod Mayo. You know, Jerod Mayo is a great guy. I do think that he is going to get another chance to coach in the NFL if he frankly chooses to. Not sure it will be a head coaching gig, but I'm sure he can probably find himself on the defensive staff, and maybe if he works his way back. I don't think that the league is going to hold this situation over Jerod Mayo's head. for long in particular. They understand that he inherited a roster and an ownership group that really had a kind of lack of experience in the front office as well. So I don't think that the NFL is really going to hold this situation over Jerod Mayo's head, and I do think that he will get another chance to coach in the league if he really feels like it. But Robert Kraft certainly has some decisions to make, and of course there's some names being thrown out there. And in particular, I have my top 3 candidates who I'm going to be going into right now for the Krafts to look over to really give this head coaching position to. So starting off the list of my top 3 coaching candidates for the New England Patriots is the clear favorite, Mike Vrabel. There's just too many ties back here to New England, and there's a ton of interest on both sides here, in which I frankly do not see Mike Vrabel not being the head coach for the New England Patriots. I think that there's too many ties, and it would take a big blunder from one of these parties to not get this job done here. But heading into Mike Vrabel's career here, of course, he has a ton of ties to New England, being a former Patriots linebacker during the Patriots' first dynasty. He was the former Titans head coach, as well as the former Texans defensive coordinator in 2017. He was the 2021 Coach of the Year when he led the Titans to the number 1 seed in the AFC, as well as has a 54-43 career win-loss record as a head coach. And Mike Vrabel's really is kind of viewed as one of the upper echelon coaches in this league. And frankly, when the Titans actually fired him at the beginning of last season, it was kind of viewed as a poor move on the Titans' behalf, just because of what Mike Vrabel has accomplished and the kind of culture that he really set down there in Tennessee, becoming one of the better programs in the NFL. And there was a ton of interest from teams when Mike Vrabel actually was fired. However, he ended up going to Cleveland, I believe, as the head of player development for the 2024 season, but he has been sought after as one of the best head coaching candidates after this past season has concluded. Of course, he got an interview with the New York Jets. I believe he's already interviewed with the Chicago Bears. Today, at the time of this recording, he actually is getting interviewed by the New England Patriots. So I would not be surprised if a potential move is announced once the Patriots wrap up a couple of interviews with some other candidates there. But I think it just makes too much sense. The Patriots are a very attractive head coaching offer with their franchise quarterback of the future, that being Drake May, as well as a ton of cap space for this upcoming season. And frankly, the only way I can really see this kind of deal coming to a halt is if Mike Vrabel actually wants to bring his own people from Tennessee in. And I'm not talking from a coaching staff perspective. Usually when a new head coach is hired, they get to bring in guys of their former regimes or guys they want to bring into their regimes. But if he wants to bring over some people in the front office from Tennessee, I could see that really being the one holdup in this deal. Of course, Robert Kraft wants to have Elliott Wolf remain in the position that he's in right now. So as long as Mike Vrabel really doesn't want to bring over a ton of turnover from the Titans front office down there in his past regime, I really don't see how this kind of deal isn't end up doing. Mike Vrabel really kind of served as the quote-unquote CEO, head coach down there in Tennessee, and was kind of that culture changer for them. But he never was the offensive play caller and the defensive play caller down there in Tennessee. So he would kind of fill into that role that Jerod Mayo kind of had of this last season. But of course, he is more experienced in this league and has more of a pedigree than Jerod Mayo had here in New England. So I really do think that this is probably the most seamless transition into heading up to a head coach here, as long as Mike Vrabel knows what to do with his coaching staff, which I wouldn't see why he wouldn't. He's been a coach for around 6 years in this league already. And frankly, I think that as long as he can work compatibly with Elliott Wolf as well as the rest of the front office and not demand too much, that being kind of like full roster control, I think that Mike Vrabel would end up being the head coach of the New England Patriots. My next head coaching candidate here for the New England Patriots would actually be Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson here. Ben Johnson has been proven to be one of the better offensive minds of these past couple seasons and really has been key, along with Dan Campbell, as why the Lions have really turned around their franchise. They have a ton of talent on that offense, and part of that could be attributed back to Ben Johnson and his development, as well as just having a great overall scheme with a ton of players to take advantage of how deadly that offense really has become. And of course, as you see on the screen, being that offensive coordinator, he actually leads the NFL this season in points per game. He is second in total offense and has both a top 10 passing and rushing attack. He has so many weapons with Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Sam Laporta, of course, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, who did go down, unfortunately, but frankly, just a ton of weapons on both sides, and has actually helped the Lions become one of the better offenses because of not only their offensive line, and I can't attribute full credit to him in terms of drafting them, but of course, they have a very good offensive line, which really anchors that kind of offense there. But he's also been key to the development of guys like Jameson Williams, who before Ben Johnson had there for a season, really did not have himself the best rookie season. Of course, he's had some off-the-field troubles too with a couple of suspension as well as injuries, but Ben Johnson has done a really nice job of kind of integrating such an elite talent like Jameson Williams into this offense pretty seamlessly, and it's why the Lions are a really good team right now. Of course, they have a very good defense, but the Lions are extremely difficult to stop, and a ton of that could be attributed back to Ben Johnson's offensive scheme there. And it's not only this season, in the past couple seasons as well, 2022 and 2023, he's top 5 in points per game as well as top 5 in total offense. And why I think that this would be an attractive job for Ben Johnson here is, of course, he would come over here from Detroit. I'm sure he'd be able to retain some of the coaches underneath him in Detroit here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Johnson does not want full roster control whatsoever. This is going to be his first time actually as a NFL head coach by his lonesome. So it'd be a pretty high demand here if he wanted full roster control. So I think that would be a pretty easy fit there with the Patriots. And of course, with all that cap space as well as having Drake May, it's a very attractive offer. And if the Patriots actually want to change their philosophy a little bit here, of course, Bill Belichick, Jerod Mayo have both been defensive head coaches. If they want to actually kind of adapt to this quote-unquote modern new NFL, they could bring in a guy like Ben Johnson and kind of have that offensive head coach come in here. And I think it would be a good fit here in New England for Ben Johnson. He'd have a ton of control in terms of, I'm sure he'd have a lot of input at least into some of the players that he would like to have come here to New England. There's a ton of cap space. It's a very luxury kind of job opportunity for him to really come in and settle down. And you wouldn't expect it to be winning right away for Ben Johnson here, which is why I think it'd be a kind of a safer landing spot for him. And that's why I think that the Patriots should at least have a look at Ben Johnson. I do believe he's actually interviewing with them over the weekend. So I think that there's a solid chance that Ben Johnson does end up becoming the New England Patriots head coach if they do strike out on Mike Vrabel. So it's going to be very interesting. And honestly, if Mike Vrabel is not the head coach, Ben Johnson is probably the most qualified to be that second leading candidate here for the New England Patriots. Wrapping out my list here would be current Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady. And I do believe that he is a little bit of a dark horse candidate just because he is in a situation with a division rival here. But Joe Brady's resume kind of speaks for itself of how he has really adapted into the modern NFL offenses. He was on that LSU coaching staff that won the national championship along with Joe Burrow. He was a former Panthers offensive coordinator, I believe from 2021 to 2022. And then he actually got hired with the Buffalo Bills, where he took over midway during the 2023 season and has been the offensive coordinator this entire season. And as you can see on the screen, he has had a ton of success with this Bills offense, even through the departure of Stephon Diggs. He's second in the NFL in points per game, 10th in total offense, and had a top 10 rushing and passing attack, ranking 9th in both those categories. And he has Josh Allen playing like an MVP candidate. Of course, not all that success can go to Joe Brady with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a playmaker. He is one of the best quarterbacks in this league right now. But I do think that Joe Brady's scheme as well as his coaching have helped attribute to Josh Allen's maybe lack of turnovers and him playing just a better brand of football while still being able to capitalize on how good of a playmaker he is. And that's why I frankly think that this job would be an attractive offer to Joe Brady, is the similarities between Josh Allen and Drake May. Both kind of have that same prototype type of player. Great playmakers, can make plays with their legs, get some rushing yards in there, both have extremely good arms. Maybe not the same arm on Drake May compared to Josh Allen, but that's like a top 10 percentage-wise arm in the league right there from Josh Allen. And Drake May is more than serviceable throwing the football. And from what Drake May has really put on tape this year, he really has exceeded expectations in terms of his accuracy. And one might even say that he has been ahead of Josh Allen at Josh Allen's time compared to Drake May, where they are at their careers. So I do think that this is a very attractive offer to Joe Brady if he was given the chance. And I think the Patriots would be pretty irresponsible to not at least ask Buffalo for an interview with Joe Brady, just because of the similarities I've talked about already. He would not land in a position where he would be, quote-unquote, expected to win immediately. He would inherit a ton of cap space, as well as kind of have that same prototype that fits his offensive scheme, that being Drake May compared to Josh Allen. So I think that this is by far the biggest long shot, of course, because they are division rivals, as I've said before. But like I said, the Patriots should request an interview with Joe Brady here, and I think it'd be pretty irresponsible to not at least take a look at Joe Brady. And if Joe Brady were to be open to the idea, it'd probably be the best way for him to advance in his career, to take on a head coaching position if teams were able to offer him that. And I think that the Patriots would be a perfect candidate for him to kind of settle into. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about who you would have as your top or favorites to land this head coaching gig for the New England Patriots. And once again, thank you so much for watching.